country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't trying to sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's the way it is, like it is how I tell it. Paint a country club Christian, I'm a zealot. Truth's gonna hurt, man, I ain't trying to sell it. And if you think you can refute it, you'll regret it. Cause that's the way it is, like it is how I tell it. Okay, firstly, I gotta address apologetics. It doesn't make sense, I'm not sorry, I don't get it. The fact that he was crucified means that we're all
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Main Character Podcast, level 24. Thank you for being here. The Main Character Podcast is, of course, made possible by the Cult of Khan. That's you guys. Again, thank you for being here today, guys. We got some stuff to talk about today. But first, I just want to say Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thanks for sticking around for one more year. And we got a lot of stuff coming on, so a few things I want to share with you guys and stuff as well. So just stick with me today. We're going to have some fun. First things first, let me go ahead and just mute the background track here. What's up, Wendy? Good to see ya. What's up, Doctor Who? Welcome in, my friend. Really cool stuff in store for you guys today. And we'll just go ahead and go through the regular stuff. Welcome to the Cult of Khan. For those of you guys who may see this for the very first time, I am Khan Man. I am the leader of this ridiculous conspiracy theory cult. We also have Patreon. If you're ever interested in checking that out, patreon.com/thecultofkhan. There'll be more going there in the near future as well. And then, obviously, new year, new chance to try this again. The Cock Store, our official spring merchandise store, is available on, well, I'll share the link with the chat. Maybe I'll leave it in the description for you guys who, end up watching this later. Anyway, you guys may know we had a problem where the shipping was like ridiculous, like $30 for some reason, no matter what. I don't know if it was a bug. I don't know if it had something to do with the holidays, but for whatever reason, this company decided to charge an absurd amount for the shipping, and I was just kind of like, well, what can you do about it, There's not really much you can do. And then after the season, I saw shipping for like $6. So I don't know if it was just like they were just taking advantage of people and gouging them. Not a good look for the company. So I totally understand if you don't want any of your money going to them. But if you're interested in wearing like a hoodie or a t-shirt or a tank top or even a hat, speaking of hats, we have something to discuss about that in just a moment. But if you're interested in any of those things, we have a list of variety of designs available here. Different things you can choose from to show your support for the channel and get a little stuff for yourself, a little something. But that's that. Anyway, getting that out of the way, I wanted to just show you guys this video I was looking at like minutes before I started the stream today because, since we're going into the new year, it's kind of like, what is the future going to look like? And obviously this is a perfect example right here that I found. This is a video from a guy called Voyager's Revenge. Feel free to pop in and give them a like and everything. Boom. Show our support. And then, of course, this is fair use. We're just reviewing this for the purpose of commentary and everything, and this is as it's originally presented. So I just wanted to show you guys. First off, look at this picture. This is an incredible image and it's just going to look even more intense when I unpause it. But this is basically, I just started here because the video had a bunch of shooting in the beginning, and that's fine, but it's not necessarily like what I wanted to see. It's just, this is a video game. Okay, this is Cyberpunk with a lot of mods and stuff, but just check this out. Okay, I'll try to make sure the volume's reasonable. And I'm going to get the link for that too. And just share it with you guys because it's just incredible. I'm really impressed by the... I'm just going to go ahead and just put... in the chat for you guys to check it out because obviously there's no way I can stream it in quality high enough for you to be able to realize how incredible the graphics have become on this, ultimately modded version of the game. It's not perfect, obviously, because, it's hard to, translate what your eyes would really see in real life, but it's the most incredible, especially the cars. Look at that. It's, indistinguishable. Certain things, like the vehicles and those freeze frames, just incredible. He's just mowing people down. I think that's part of the showcase. Okay, it's extremely graphic, I guess. That's anyway, that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to like play it in full, because it's obviously just like a gore fest, you know, to each their own. I'm a gamer. I can handle it. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys because it's just totally nutso, you know, super crazy and, you know, just amazing to see how far technology has come and to imagine how much technology will continue to grow and develop as we move forward in the world and, you know, what that means for all of us. What happened to my chat? There it is. Chat disappeared on me for a second. What's up, Sandra Moore? Welcome in. Good to see ya. Well, guys, obviously tonight I want to talk about a couple of things. Yeah, it escalated really quickly, didn't it? Yeah, interesting. So, okay, obviously, you know, it wasn't the kind of turnaround that I wanted it to be, but we did talk about giving away some merchandise last week, and I'm a man of my word. So I put together a list of all of the people who left a comment on last week's main character podcast video. And everybody here is somebody that I recognize. Like, you guys are all my people. It's good to see your names on the list. As you can see, there's a few of you guys here. And obviously, you know, the condition was that you guys just leave a comment on last week's main character podcast. And of course, that automatically enters you for a chance to win this brand new Cult of Khan Teespring hat in all of its glory. And there's much to be discussed about it, but this one, just for the sake of anyone who's wondering, this is a very good one. I don't know if there's like a discrepancy, but apparently Wendy got one. She said it wasn't as nice as she is expecting it to be, and you know, dude, I'm really disappointed in Spring. Get your shit together. But hey, this one's great and it's free, so I'm going to be rolling the dice here, guys. We're going to be, well, I guess it's not the dice, it's the wheel of names here. So check it out. Isn't that cool? We've got David. That's Jew David, my friend. Really awesome. Ryan Kudasik. Now, the thing is, I don't know who all of these people are exactly. Some people have a different, like, in-chat username than they do as a comment. It's kind of weird, but I know all of you guys. Verk June, Lucas Williams, The Rev, Steve Gower. It was Berenstein Bear. I think that's Puckwudgie. I could be wrong. Hilarious, by the way. Cage Fighter, Stephen Morris, MK Ryan. So not a crazy long list, but obviously some regulars, and it's great to see all of you guys, and thank you for participating in this. And I'm literally just I'm gonna do this shuffle a couple of times so the names get bounced around. Is there a way to do that? Is it not working? Work, come on. Shuffle, you smug son of a gun. Here, let's do this. We'll copy them. We'll refresh the page. There we go. I just wanted to make sure we didn't lose the list. Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Shuffle, shuffle. We got like 4 or 5 shuffles. 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 shuffles. Okay, everybody's been shuffled around. Now, the winner of the hat will be decided by this wheel. Let's get it. Boom. All right, it's that simple. Steve Gower, 1470. You are the winner of the Cult of Khan. Oh, we got cops driving by. Awesome. New Year's Day. New year, new craziness. Anyway, Steve Gower, 1470, you are the winner of the Cult of Khan hat. I would be happy to get in touch. Feel free to leave me a comment. We'll find a way to link up, my man, and I will send this to you free of charge. Congratulations, my friend. Thank you for being here. I'm sure that you'll see this later because I know you're a UK fan, and I know that means that you're probably well asleep right now. It's like 4 in the morning over there. It's 2 a.m. or something. But awesome. Congratulations, Steve. Really awesome. Oh, no way. Here you are. My dude, welcome in. Congrats, my friend. You are the winner of the Cult of Khan hat. Dude, that makes me really happy. I'm really glad that it was you. It could have been any of you guys, of course, and we'll definitely come around and do this kind of thing again. It does look really dark on my feed, doesn't it? It's not that. I think it's like overcompensating for exposure. Let me see if I can adjust it a little bit. It did look like I'm sitting in the dark. Thanks for saying something about it. I don't want it to get too bright. It was like washing out my face earlier and I just couldn't get it to sort itself out. How's that? You like that? Looking better? Right on. All right, cool. Moving on, guys. There's so much going on lately. I don't know if any of you guys saw the news. I hate to be the bringer of bad news, but come on, it's like I got on Twitter, and as soon as I looked on Twitter, it was like chaos on the other side. And I was like, man, I was really enjoying the end of the year, the start of the new year. And I was really like, things are really chill. And, it's Dojo. He's like, oh, damn, I was thinking it was Tuesday. Yeah, it is what it is. Obviously, we drew off of last week's episode, so you guys didn't miss it today. So it was based on last week, but don't worry, we'll do another giveaway. As it stands to reason, I didn't have too much trouble acquiring the one I'm wearing now, the Vistaprint one, and I really think the Vistaprint quality is better. So maybe what we'll do is I'll buy a Vistaprint hat, and in a couple of weeks we'll raffle off another one. How does that sound? I'd love to be able to give out merch to you guys, and I think I can afford $25 every couple of weeks or so to get you guys one of these. No big deal. And then, of course, if you guys feel like you really want one, like I said, we do have the Cult of Con store, the Cock store, available. And I'll just throw that link down in the chat one more time in case any of you guys are interested in going there and buying something for yourself. Again, they seem to have sorted out their pricing issue, with the shipping and all that. So be my guest. And if not, no problem, guys. It's a weird world we live in. Besides, things are more expensive than they've ever been. I can't even justify buying a carton of eggs. All right, so I entered Twitter, or X, I guess, that's what we call it now. And I instantly opened I unzipped the window into the hellscape that is the media circus. As you guys may have heard, there was an attack on the revelers in Louisiana, in New Orleans. And I just want to take a moment to say my condolences to those families who lost members of their family in this terrible thing, and then also to those who have been wounded. I pray in the Lord's name for their recovery, and also I pray for the folks that are going through this terrible trauma and all of the terror that's going on. And with that being said, here we are looking at the suspect. I was saying some crap on Twitter. I was talking some shit on Twitter, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, so the big thing going on right now is that they're saying this guy was motivated as some kind of a member or a copycat, or in some way inspired by the Islamic State, ISIS. And so because of that, there's a conspiracy going on, right? That's what this is. There's always something, right? Anyway, so this is basically what's going on, right? So the guy drove over a whole bunch of people at the party, the New Year's ball drop event in New Orleans. And there are lots of details that can be found. You're welcome to peruse the internet. I'm not really here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the conspiracy, because that's what we talk about on this channel. So I'm going to spitball you guys some information that you may already know, but hopefully we'll be expanding our minds a little bit as we talk about this. Okay, so what is ISIS? Now, this is something we've all heard of before. This is a terrorist organization, right? This is something that we have in the past been motivated to warfare by this individual, or this group of individuals, I mean to say. So here's the story. The truck has a battle flag flying off the back of it as it's running everybody over. This is the narrative, okay? Then what happens is, once the truck is stopped and the gunman gets out. He is a gunman. He then starts opening fire with a rifle and exchanges gunfire with the police, who ultimately take him out. Okay, that's part of the recap. The other issue is that as soon as the police and the investigators, the FBI, get a hold of the truck and the crime scene, they cover up the flag. This is just the story. I don't have all the facts, okay? I'm just telling you what I've heard so far. So basically, the battle flag, so to speak, is covered up by the authorities, as if they're not sure what narrative they want to release yet. Also, if you guys are just popping in, good to see you. Welcome in. Good to see you, Dojo, Jeffrey, Shane. Great to have you guys here. Anyway, continuing on with what we're saying here. The terrorist, I guess we're going to start using that word again. We've entered into that timeline, haven't we? Where we talk about terrorists, but we call them terrorists now. Okay, hear me out. All right, so what is ISIS? There's a piece of information here. I went ahead and opened the tab so we could do a little read up. Not that Wikipedia is entirely perfect for information, but they do a pretty good job. The Islamic State, also known as the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Keep that in mind. Remember that. Also known as the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. The Islamic State of Iraq and Al-Sham. Okay, so there's a couple different names for this, but it's the general same thing. As you can see, here's the flag. There's some writing on there. Ad-Dala, Islamiyah? I don't know. Islamiyah. Yeah. Ad-Dawla al-Islamiyah. Okay. All right. Don't judge me, okay? I'm not Arabic. Okay, so the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, also known as Iraq and the Levant. So we need to understand first what the Levant is, because some people don't understand. The Levant is a section of the world, a region of the world surrounding the east and the southeast of the Mediterranean Sea. So there's a couple little pictures here from Wikipedia. It's kind of like this. You see this right here for those of you watching who aren't listening in. We're looking at the east side, the southeast side of the Mediterranean Sea. That's this little landmass right here. And if we look at Google Maps, you can see actually the countries that are in that same region. See, here we have the Mediterranean. Here's the east and south of the Mediterranean. We have, for instance, Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq. Okay, so when we're talking about ISIS, we are talking about a group that's supposed to exist here and here and also right here and technically everywhere over here. Okay, you following me? So this is the Islamic State in this part of the world, okay? Not to be confused with, like, for instance, there are all kinds of ragtag groups, even in Africa, southern Africa. There are groups of what would be construed as Islamic terror groups in parts of Africa. But what we're referring to specifically when we talk about ISIS in the West is this region, okay? So surrounding America's greatest ally. And so for those of you who are questioning today why I have the star here on my microphone, I'm just showing a proverbial kind of support. What I mean to say is that I don't want people to get the wrong impression about what we're discussing here today, although I will be touching on some things that are a little bit controversial. Firstly, since we have decided that this act of horror has taken place at the behest of a guy who is representing the Islamic State, that is the narrative that has matured. And if we look at this article here from Fox 6 hours ago, even they're claiming now that this is a terrorist suspect who had an ISIS flag on his truck. So for those of you guys who weren't following it in real time, as this event broke out, people were talking about the flag, but the authorities were covering it up. And so because of that, people were suspicious. People were saying the government's going to try to cover for the ISIS terrorist or whatever. Now, of course, it's being revealed that it is in fact an ISIS flag and that they're going to give ISIS terroristic motivations to the individual who has, at this time, at least as recently as 35 minutes ago, been responsible for 15 people dying in the United States. So, because of that, there is a new narrative on the field here, which is something that I think we were all waiting to see, which is that, as you guys know, Israel has been in a protracted conflict since, well, the late 1940s. And there's a little bit of talk to be had about it, but I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but there's this theory. Well, it's not a theory because it's a fact, and it's published on the internet here, even on Wikipedia. So I want you guys to check it out. I just want to give you guys a moment to look it up. Greater Israel is an expression with several different biblical and political meanings over time. It's often used in an irredentist fashion to refer to the historic or desired borders of Israel. Currently, the most common definition of the land encompassed by the term is the territory of the State of Israel, together with the Palestinian territories. Other definitions favored by revisionist Zionists, including the territory of the former Emirate of Transjordan, the Sinai Peninsula, and the Golan Heights. Okay, so it's difficult because this term is kind of thrown around loosely. But for those people who are in positions of authority and power, it means something to them that is different than kind of this, the Wikipedia version of it. What they're referring to is effectively the Promised Land, correct? This is an area of the Middle East that is described. Even here, it says that it has multiple definitions in the Bible. Like we're looking at the first definition in Genesis, defining the land that was given to Abraham, okay? There's definitions of this place in Numbers and Ezekiel. So we're talking about essentially Old Testament, Torah version of history that claims that this is where this group of people ancestrally was, this is their holy land, what they're entitled to. And this is highlighted in what's called the royal grant to Abraham. Okay, that's what they refer to this as. And this is from the 1919 book. I'll blow it up so you guys can see it. So what we're looking at here, I don't know if you guys can all tell what's happening. This is the Mediterranean Sea here to the west. So we're looking at that same part of the map, right? So if you look at the world right now, Israel represents this tiny little sliver right here along the beach and up to the corner of Lebanon and Syria, and they border Jordan and they border Egypt and to the west, okay? This is a map of what many people who are Torah-believing people from the nation of Israel, they believe this is where their country should be, okay? And you can say about that whatever you'd like. But as you can see, this is far bigger than the current area that they have control over. Now, if you look, you'll notice that this dot right here represents Damascus, which, as you may know, Damascus is the capital of Syria. It's a big deal, okay? So when I see a terror attack taking place in the United States, for instance, New Orleans, New Year's Day, and this is following directly on the heels of a Christmas Eve crash, right? So a person in Germany ran over a bunch of people at a Christmas marketplace like 2 weeks ago. So in Europe, they're reeling still from the impact of that. Similar motivation. And now here in the West, we have been refreshed. And I don't know if you guys know, but I'm someone who pays attention. And over the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years, the word terrorist has not been used by the media. You'll notice that there have been absolutely insane situations, even dating back to, do you guys remember, I brought this up last week, do you remember the Nashville RV bombing, where an RV just explodes in downtown Nashville, and then it was on Christmas, remember? And everybody just kind of, brushed over it like nothing happened. Well, I didn't forget, okay? And what I notice is that we avoid the word terrorist in our media unless it has to do with people from this part of the world, the Levant. Okay, so now here we are again discussing the Levant in the media. We're discussing Syria and Iraq, and we're discussing a supposedly rogue terrorist group in the region. Now here's the issue, right? It's the same exact justification for entering into Iraq. Here we have rogue, dangerous actors taking, even in the United States, that's only the beginning. We'll have stories coming out of here about how Israel's been hit with missiles from Jordan, from Lebanon, from southern Lebanon. The media has been talking about this for months, ever since the attack on October 7th, I believe it was, like over a year ago now. So this is getting to be a hot spot again. And as you can imagine, people in the West are really disinterested in going to war in the Middle East. So what I imagine is going to happen, and this is where my conspiracy theory begins, because everything I've told you so far is a fact. What we have is a potential for a greater conflict in the Middle East. And so that's why I decided to call tonight's episode New Year, New War, because I think we're ready. Now, if we had any kind of president that we didn't trust, like Joe Biden in the White House, it would be very difficult to get anybody on board with this. But you guys have to remember that things have taken place over the last couple of years that have really helped to destabilize the Middle East. As you guys might know, still looking at the map here, Iraq borders Iran across this entire line right here. We're talking like hundreds of miles of border share with Iran. And it wasn't that long ago. I mean, a few years now. But Iran is a real country, right? And Iran's general was heading over here to their neighbor to have a diplomatic agreement discussion. And our current president, well, I guess he's our president-elect, who was the president at the time, Donald Trump, extrajudicially assassinated this man with a missile strike. He ordered it, takes credit for it, and is very proud of it. But as you can see, these guys are neighbors, and they're allowed to coordinate with each other. So America is over here stirring up problems, and this part of the world is very angry at us. And not just us, they're very angry at them. okay? And nobody is oblivious to the fact that they're very angry with Israel. We're coming down to this time in history where the visions of some of these people, and when I say some of them, I mean a lot of them. I don't mean all of them. And that's why it's so difficult to have this conversation. Because if you bring these people up and it seems as though you're criticizing them, you are liable to have your channel deleted. This could be the last main character podcast just because I'm simply bringing up what is happening in the world right now. And there's something to be said about it, and I'll come back to this map. I want to bring you guys to the Matt Kim podcast here. A much bigger channel than me. It's not like I'm plugging him or anything. But is there an echo? Steve Gower is saying he's getting an echo. Oh, now, are you talking about like a natural one, or is it like coming through twice? Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. Let me know if anybody else is having that problem with like an echo. But anyway, this is the Matt Kim podcast. Matt Kim it's kind of, I don't know much about the guy, okay, but he's been blowing up on the internet lately, okay? Welcome in, Pearl. Good to see you. Anyway, so Matt Kim is like, he's an intellectual, to say the least. He's very truth motivated, and I can't tell you all about, what I think about him as a person. I haven't had a lot of time to get to know him. But recently, he had a podcast episode where he and his co-host, I can't remember the guy's name, I'm still figuring this out. They had a discussion about, here, we'll mute it for a second, come up here. Oh yeah, what was that? Was that the thumbnail of it? So weird. Okay. Oh yeah. The CIA chessboard in the... Oh, that's something else. Okay. Anyway, these guys had a discussion about usury, which I don't know if you guys know. It's like a biblical sin. It's like abuse of money lending and interest rates and stuff. And these guys basically did, and I'll link this to you guys. This is the discussion, kind of the debrief on it. And this debrief is where Matt and his co-host are just talking about how they got in trouble for the things they said surrounding this banking industry and money stuff, okay? And they pointed out a lot of things about, who owns the banks and who gets these special provisions and stuff like that, and it got them in a lot of trouble. And that is kind of one of the things that's helped propel their podcast into the field of vision for many people, or into, I guess, the place where they can be heard by many people. But I also feel like what they're saying is super important here. These guys are not conspiracy theorists as far as, the classic definition. You guys, we are part of kind of it's a different level when you have decided, okay, no, I'm looking now, right? And so what's going on is that normal people are starting to notice some of the things that people in deep conspiracy world have been looking into for many years. And some of these things that used to be completely taboo, as in like you couldn't even bring it up, or like, your job is gone, your career is over, your channels are deleted, you may even be debanked. There have been times in history where people were fully destroyed for bringing this stuff up. But here is another example. I'll give you guys this link as well in case any of you just want to follow it and like stick it in your watch later or something. If you guys want to just catch up on this, I think it's important stuff. I mean, obviously those of you guys who have done extensive research into this stuff don't really need to hear this again. But it is interesting to see that as we're coming into the new year here, many, many more people are awake. More people are awake than have ever been before, and it's a good thing, even if we're still going through this kind of struggle with censorship and shadow banning and kind of this overarching control over information. So with that being said, here are a couple links I've left in the chat for you guys to check out Matt Kim's podcast discussing the usury thing, I don't even really want to use the word Jew, but it's kind of what it is. And then the backlash they faced as well, just kind of as we're going over this. So with all this stuff being in the news and with all this crazy stuff, the drones that have been found in everywhere, for instance, my mom found drones over her property and she lives in the middle of nowhere, sent me some footage of it, and it's definitely interesting. I mean, obviously the videos don't do it great justice because, you have to be there. But just to find out that drones are present in the middle of nowhere over random parts of the United States, I mean, we can say whatever we want about what they are. I trust her discernment. She said it didn't feel demonic. It didn't feel interdimensional or like that she was experiencing something supernatural at all. It seemed like it was military tech. And I think that is kind of I think that's a fair assessment, and I think she's probably right. So crazy things are happening, right? This is a new year. And there's unlimited potential for what could be taking place. But here's what I'm telling you. I see something forming up, a narrative, right? Here we are in this situation where because of the Democrats, because of Joe Biden, because of, the abandoning of the Bagram Air Base, and because of all this stuff going on with ISIS, that they're going to eventually declare a link between the terror groups and the actual governments of places like Iraq, where we've been before, and Syria, where we've been before. And my concern is that they're going to want to destabilize the governments of Iraq and Syria as a product of their inability, or they're implicated, right? They will say to us, these countries are implicated in outfitting, supplying, aiding, and abetting the terrorist groups like ISIS, who are responsible for not only attacks in Israel, but attacks even here in the United States. And we have a responsibility. I mean, think about Donald Trump. Donald Trump went around telling everybody he destroyed 100% of the ISIS caliphate. He told us that he had finished them off completely. There was no one left. And now look at it. Here we have a terrorist attack under the flag of ISIS. Like, that makes Trump look bad. It's like, when he enters into the White House, he has a responsibility to make himself look good. It's his primary concern. So he's going to come out here and say, with this new wave of ISIS, we have to be firm, we have to be strong, we have to come out and we have to deliver. And that means that we need to help our greatest ally in the Middle East defend their border. And if anything, we need to destabilize these governments. And what will end up happening? Complete conjecture here. But complete conjecture tells me that we could easily take control of these countries using the NATO war machine and basically give their territory to Israel. Because it's like somebody has to be the supervisor in the Middle East. We went over there and we stood there for 25 years keeping peace, controlling the terror groups, as they say. It's not true, but it doesn't matter. We were peacekeepers there for 25 or 30 years. We left. Terror sprung back up again. Someone needs to be the peacekeeper in the Middle East. So who's it going to be? How about the people who claim that it's their land in the first place, right? You can't have ISIS if you have one greater Israel. Let's pull the map up one more time just so we can look at it again. The Royal Grant. I didn't make this up. This is something that a lot of people really believe in. And if you do any research into this, you'll find out that I'm not joking. They really are serious about it. So we have essentially this game plan here to expand Israel across the entire eastern half of the Middle East, as well as the entire eastern sphere on this Mediterranean Sea, which includes part of Egypt in this. And it's one of those things where it was easier in the beginning, right? I don't know if you guys know about like the Balfour Declaration. It's going to be kind of hard to navigate this thing. Oh, this is the ISIS thing. I need to be on the Promised Land. Kingdom of Israel. So Palestine under British rule, 1917 to 1948. You guys have probably heard about this, but I'll just bring it up. The Balfour Declaration was a public statement issued by the British government in 1917 during the First World War, announcing its support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, then an Ottoman region with a small minority of Jewish population. The declaration was contained in a letter dated 2nd November 1917 from the United Kingdom's Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour to Lord Rothschild, a leader of the British Jewish community, for transmission to the Zionist Federation of Great Britain and Ireland. The text of the declaration was published in the press on 9 November 1917. So remember, guys, this is about Israel and the Jews reclaiming control of this region in the Middle East that at this time is under the control of England at this turn of the century here. And we're talking about this before there's even a second Great War. Okay, so keep that in mind. We basically have 2 world wars that take place on the heels of this. This whole idea that we need to reestablish Jewish homeland in the Middle East essentially takes place. So on the military front in Palestine, the Sinai and Palestine campaign was part of the Middle Eastern theater of World War I, meaning this allowed the English to seize control of the land that was under the control of the Ottomans before the Second World War. Then, at the end of the Second World War, we'll see if they talk about this here. The Peel Commission recommended partition of mandatory Palestine. So see, what happens is the West, the Rothschilds and the Jewish lobbies in the West essentially fomented this thing. And at the end of World War II, they create the state of Israel. That's in 1948. So as you can see, the West first removed this land from the possession of the people who had it first, the Ottoman Empire, which dates back a long time. I suppose we could pull up a little information about that if we wanted to, just to see, Now Ottomans that's something like for people who look at Old World and stuff. I mean, there's a lot to unpack about the Ottoman Empire. That's kind of like the cover up for everything that happens in the East after the Millennial Kingdom. But anyway, very crazy stuff taking place. This is major history, major geopolitical fare. And over the course of our lives, we've only seen certain steps being taken, but they've been large steps. So this obviously happened well before any of us were alive. The establishment of the State of Israel took place, back in the 1940s, 48. But it has expanded. And one of the other things is that I did find a map. I don't know if this is going to be very legible for you guys, but this is called the Tselem interactive map. I'm actually going to give it to you guys in chat, just in case you want to save this to a link and maybe check it out and dig into it later. But basically, this is a map of where all the conflict zones are, where the border discrepancies are in this part of the world. And you can see, places where there have been conflicts and missile strikes and all sorts of crap, okay? And we're looking at even there's places there's Bethlehem right there. That's wild. So this is the middle of a very intense place, and we're in the middle of a very intense time in history. And this is more of my speculation, but I feel like, if you ask me, the reason why things have been getting crazier and crazier, from the geopolitical sphere going crazy with the inception of Trump into politics and all of this nonsense, all of these riots, all of this everything from George Floyd to C-19 to, all the crazy stuff, the war in Ukraine, the war in Israel, and everything that's been going on tells me that we are getting close to some major shifts in the world. Drones flying over ranches in the middle of nowhere. Something's taking place. And I don't know what exactly it's going to be, but I do believe it is possible that we are going to be involved in yet another conflict here in the Middle East, with the ultimate goal being to destabilize these regions that oppose Israel and to give Israel this whole square. As you can see, it travels all the way east. I don't know if they get Baghdad. But as you can see, it comes down here across that border where what used to be Mesopotamia is, which, according to the current map, is, it seems like it's kind of this river here is the borderline there. So they may not have Baghdad. But that means taking basically 50% of Iraq, and obviously a good majority of Syria as well, and Lebanon entirely. So, at the end of the day, I don't know what the point of all of this is other than to expand Israel. There's really no reason for it. We've sent them more money than anyone can comprehend. And of course, it's tough because right now we're dealing with one of the most rigid groups in history, the Christian Zionists in America. They are convinced that this nation is the nation being discussed in the scriptures when God refers to Israel. There are so many things that are prophesied about the people of Israel and what will take place in the final days and throughout the course of this people and their history. And one of those things is that they will be given this promised land, as well as many other promises. And, there's a big issue, with that working out right now. The way the world is set up does not justify this nation owning all of this area. And so it becomes a hotspot for conflict. A conflict that's been taking place here for at least the last 100 years, although it goes way farther back than that. What's interesting about all this is the fact that we were already over here, right? We've already been in Baghdad and in Syria and in Afghanistan and in different parts of this region. And we've participated in all kinds of, government building and destabilization. And I'm not even here to recommend that we're going to be at war with Iran. We've talked about it. We've considered it. But at the end of the day, Iran was really, it was taken over a long time ago. the leadership in Iran doesn't represent the people the way that it used to. And if you look at Iran today, you can see that the prosperity they used to have is long gone as well. And that's a product of the occupational forces, the same forces that occupy our media and corporations and everything in the United States. You know, it doesn't take a huge genius to find out that most of the major corporations, most of the major CEOs and owners of businesses. I mean, everything from like dildo factories to porno networks. The most degenerative, the most disgusting, the most evil corporations are generally almost entirely, including the media specifically, they're all owned by Jewish families. And so when a narrative is printed about a terrorist running people down, there's a coordination going on between the media and the government and the foreign governments, and they're working together for a cause that ultimately doesn't benefit any of us. And to think that they would do things that would be a detriment to themselves is preposterous. You know, when we look at secret societies and cults and Satanists, it's like, it's hard for normal people to fathom how serious these people are. If you're someone who is for instance, the Christian Zionists in the West that support Israel, they believe that these are God's chosen people. They believe that this group of people, that nation and that region is a sacred place. And so they have to support it, or else they're in some way going against God, going against God's chosen people, going against their own Christian sensibilities. And so that makes them very difficult to deal with because, like I said, the people that are working for the enemy, for Satan, for the Zionist takeover goal, the people that are working for the Masons and the different various groups of secret societies, they're working for their hierarchy of religious influence in the world. Western Christian people have a hard time understanding that because most of their dedication to Christ consists of them showing up for an hour or two on Sunday and hanging out with their friends and drinking coffee. We talk about it all the time. It's very performative. And that's their choice to make, but the difference is just they don't understand what it's like to be devoted to their God 24 hours a day. These people, these forces, these individuals, they believe it is a sacred passage. Like, these people are the most devout servants of their master, and it's the same rulers all the way back to the time of Christ, and it can actually be traced and proven through anthropology and historical studies. The Pharisees, the controlling group in the Middle East, the same people who rejected Christ and saw his crucifixion, which of course he needed them to do. They didn't really do anything except what he wanted them to do. Good to see you, Stephen Morris. Welcome, man. Anyway, the people that wanted these things to take place got their way, okay? And that's how we got to where we are today about all this stuff, about why you can't question the narrative about World War II. One of the things that I think is so important, and I'm going to be really careful how I say this, when you start to see how all of this is connected, well, the media is so evil, all they do is lie. Well, they happen to all be Jewish. Very weird. And again, I'm not condemning Jewish people. I'm just saying that, you start to see why it benefits Israel. It's like you can't get mad at someone for doing what they want for themselves. We all live in this world, this fantasy world, that everybody's benevolent and selfless, that everybody thinks we're all equal, that we all have an equal value in the world. There are other people out here who don't believe that. There are other people who believe that you are less than dirt, that it's okay to kill you. There are people that believe that Jesus boils in shit. That's what it says in the Talmud, okay? And there are a lot of people who follow those beliefs. They are raised from the day they're born by their parents, by their grandparents, by their great-grandparents to believe that you and me are less than them. There are a lot of people like that. And what are you supposed to do about that? That's how we get into these conflict zones. That's how we get into these situations where, the West is pitted against each other for the benefit of these people. What was it that convinced the world, including England and America and other Western European countries, how did they all decide it was a good idea to give this land to these Jewish people? Well, because they had all just been horrifically victimized by the skinny mustache chancellor. Remember? So they became this victim group just in time so that they could protect themselves as the oppressors in this region. Can you imagine what it would be like if your town one day was just repatriated to China? No, China, we were in massive crippling national debt, and Donald Trump sold the southern fucking 1,200 miles of the country to China. Everything south of Wyoming, all the way from east to west, is now a product of, it belongs to China. So you living there in your town, now you are a part of the Chinese government, the Chinese faction. They control your life now. And so unless you move, pick up your whole life and move and leave, if they even let you, right? If you can afford to. You're now under a new system of rules and laws, Chinese ones, okay? And that can be very difficult. And I can tell you that, look at this country. Look at the people in this country. You think people in Tennessee, Arkansas, you think they're just going to be like, oh, I guess we're Chinese now? Oh, yeah, oh, all hail President Xi? That's not how it works. People like that get a pickup truck and a rifle, and they try to attack. People don't want to be victims of some oppressive government, and they really don't want to go from like a historical way of living to some new, strange way. And it's human nature to rebel against that new, strange way of living. Anyway, so these people in the Middle East have obviously been resisting this occupation of Israel because they don't want to live under this new, different government that came in 50 years ago and decided this is their new way of living and these people have to follow their rules, you know? And so this is my question. If we see this kind of stuff happening here, the degeneracy, the porno industry, the dildo factory, the endless war, the corporate overlords, the massive corporate profits, and everything evil that all these people are doing, if all this stuff is happening and we can see it happening, it's the same thing as what happened in the early 1900s. You look at like Weimar Republic in Germany, it was this steady decline. It was this introduction of degeneracy and bad behavior and segregation of a ethno-state community and all of these different things, creating a new power structure in the world. And people noticed. People noticed. They had a noticing at the turn of the 1900s, really close to the same time period we are now, 100 years ago. It was the early 1900s. It was going into the 1920s. It was through the 1930s, and it peaked at the end of the 1900s with a great war. A great war following another great war that came right before it, and all of it hinges on what's going on in this part of the world right here. Everything over here seems to be dictating what takes place in parts of the world that have nothing to do with it. We're fighting over here. We're fighting in here. And then ultimately we're fighting all the way over here. And we're fighting over here. And we're fighting all over the place, but all of it really comes down to this. It really comes down to this group. And I hate to be that guy that says that because they're going to want to crucify me for it, just like they crucified Jesus. But it's the reality. There are some truths that people are just going to have a hard time coming to the reality of, which one of them is, do you think it's possible that since they lie about absolutely everything, do you think it's possible they lied about what happened back in World War II? Do you think that character, that skinny mustache chancellor guy, they made him out to be the biggest villain in history, right? Do you think it's possible that maybe he wasn't? Do you think it's possible that he noticed all this shit too? Like, don't look at it from the perspective of like what you learned in school from Elie Wiesel and his sad boy school and his camp experience and Anne Frank. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot to be said about both of those and everything about Dachau and about Soviet armies building ovens to cook bread. Okay, there's a lot of shit I can't say on here. But what I will say is that there is a lot that needs to be unpacked before we think we know what happened over there in World War II and before we think we know what's happening over there in that part of the world right now. And I think that we're in a very perilous time. That's what I'll say. I think that we are entering a new year and there's a lot of potential for what can happen. And I think a lot of that has to do with what they're gearing us up for. So, MK Ryan says, I think you said a lot of it, mate. You're right. You're right. You know, the thing is, a lot of this stuff is stuff you shouldn't be allowed to say by the current metric, but I've been watching people talk about it. I've been seeing people have the courage to speak about the truth. And, you know, we have to be willing to stand up and say it. I've been banned before. And what do we do if we just sit there in the dark, in the quiet? We've got to say what needs to be said about this. I don't hate anybody, okay? Maybe I should have said that before I started saying all this. I don't hate anybody at all. I mean, maybe I hate the declared enemies of humanity. I hate the declared enemies of Christ, sure. But it's the same thing that Matt was talking about in that little diatribe there. Where he and his co-host were saying, it doesn't make sense that people can get so angry at you and want so badly to shut you down and to call you names and try to ruin your life, get you off the airwaves, whatever, It doesn't make sense that so many people would be so angry and want so much, animosity against you for simply stating something that is factual and true. These are true, real things I'm talking about here, and I'm not even the expert. You know what I'm saying? We should be willing to open our minds to this stuff and look what really did happen in World War II. What really became of the mustached chancellor? Was he really the villain that we all think, or was he an animal lover and a vegetarian? What is true? I don't know. But I know that what we're talking about here is the most important thing besides the big picture, right? Jesus Christ is the Son of God. He was sent to earth by God to atone for our sins, to restore humankind, to establish his kingdom. Christ's work is finished, and it is also continuing in my heart and mind, your heart and mind, and God wins in the end. That's the most important thing about all this. No matter what they do to revelers on the 4th of July or on Christmas or on New Year's Day, no matter what kind of war or conflict they try to make, no matter what they do about your freedoms, about your speech, about what you can say on the internet, about whether you're allowed to work here or work there or live here or live there, no matter what they try to take from you, they can never take away your faith and trust in Christ. Okay? So that's kind of the bottom of the line here. No matter what we go through over the next year, no matter what happens, God is working. God has a plan. And I'm going to stick by that. I have zero fear, regardless of how nuts it all looks. And should they ban me, I guess that's just too bad. I guess this is a hill worth dying on, And I'm glad you guys have been here to join me for it. It's been fun. With that being said, guys, I kind of have to let it go early tonight. I got to get up super early in the morning, and we probably have, so much more to talk about when it comes to this, so maybe we'll pick up on it again next week. We'll have to see what happens with the stories, with the case of this ISIS terrorist and this attack on the January 1st revelers, the New Year's revelers. However, I will just say, my little word of advice, and I mean, I'm kind of a shut-in, so what do I know? But I can just tell you, these are perilous times. You would not see me at a parade, especially not a Christmas parade, or any kind of let's all go downtown and cluster together with a bunch of strangers and drink alcohol and go wild. That's, if you want to do that, be my guest. But, I definitely don't believe that anybody at all deserved what happened down there last night. But at the same time, it's it would never happen if you didn't participate in these worldly ceremonies. What are we really supposed to be celebrating? That's some food for thought for you guys. Anyway, Doctor Who says that Jay Dreamers was doing a compilation. If anyone wants to join me over there after, if it's still going. So yeah, you guys, if you want to go over to Jay Dreamers, I'm sure what he's got going on is pretty good. But I just wanted to take a minute to talk about this stuff tonight, guys, and talk about, what we're dealing with right now. I think that we're being groomed for another conflict in the Middle East. And guys, the only way that this stuff ends is when we get awareness about the truth we need to stop listening to this media. We need to know this media is rotten, and this media is rotten for a reason. We need to universally, resoundingly reject all of this propaganda, all of this nonsense over here with the banking system, the Federal Reserve, the war machine, the corporate infrastructure. And our response is not to become just like them. You know, I see all these people praising this Luigi Mangione, free Luigi because he killed a corporate villain. Yes, the guy's a villain. Yes, he probably deserves to die for his wretched evil. But you know what? As soon as we decide to take it into our own hands and just start spraying bullets everywhere, we become as degenerated as they are. What we need is for the law to be upheld. What we need is for regulation and for order. You know, we gave all these people so much leeway, all these different cultures, all these different religions, all these different belief systems, because we said, oh no, we'll give you separation of church and state. We will give you freedom of religion. We'll give you freedom of the press. We give everybody all this liberty. Liberty, liberty, liberty. And everybody in America is such a patriot because they love the idea of freedom. But the reality is that Christ doesn't sell you freedom. Not really. Freedom from sin, freedom from oppression, freedom from suffering. But you also have a yoke, a light yoke. There's no such thing as freedom. Freedom is a lie. This country was sold a lie a long time ago, July 4th, 1776, and it says it at the feet of the Statue of Liberty. And that was almost 250 years ago, guys. And we are getting really close to that 250-year anniversary. Donald Trump's got plans for the Great American State Fair. Kind of reminds me of the World's Fairs that we all know so well. Very interesting to see what will come in this year of 2025 and 2026. And since I'm rambling and we're getting close to shutting it down, I have mulled over the idea of potentially running for Congress. I think I mentioned that last week. For Congress? I don't know. That's way over my head. But I'm a dreamer and a visionary. Maybe someday something like that would happen. I don't know. With all that being said, guys, it's been great. Thank you guys for being here for another episode of the Main Character Podcast. It's going to be level 24. Thank you guys so much for being here. And of course, you will catch us again on Friday at 6 a.m. for a new episode of Bulge Khalifa. And of course, we will also be back on Sunday at 8:30 a.m. for the Sunday service. Like I said, everybody, this has been another episode, level 24. Of the Main Character Podcast, made possible by the Cult of Con. That's you guys. I am Con Man, and thank you for being here. We'll see y'all next week. Take it easy.